everybody. Welcome to another episode of our YouTube channel. And today I'm really excited because I have a very special guest joining us today. Her name is Jane Dominey, the founder of Femflow Yoga, an online fertility program that offers fertility yoga, meditation, and coaching for women trying to conceive. Jane has taught women yoga for over 15 years now and is a certified osteopathic manual therapist and hormone yoga therapist. And I'm very excited to bring her on to today's shows to have a chat about how yoga can help to maximize fertility. Let's welcome Jane Dominey.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for your introduction, Catherine. It's a real pleasure to be here and share this with you. Go ahead with your questions.
Hey, Jane, before we dive into all the questions I have for you, congratulations for shortlisted for the Best Fertility Care Service Award with the European Fertility Society.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure to be nominated for that award alongside so many other people who are making a difference in the industry. Really, really special people and really special work to do.
Can you share with us a little bit more about your practice?
Yeah, for sure. So originally I'm English, but about 15 years ago, I moved to Barcelona in Spain, and I got a big old apartment, 170 square meters, and I decided to open my yoga and Pilates studio in my home. So I had a big studio in like a separate kind of added onto my home.
Okay.
And because of that, I decided I wanted it to be kind of more of a women's space because I didn't want to be, inviting people to the home that were going to be kind of in my private space. So yeah, I started to teach yoga only for women. And at that time, I was one of the only yoga teachers in Barcelona, actually, because we're going back 15 years. And even in the gyms, if you wanted to practice yoga, you had to kind of sign up to an extra class that was stuck to a pin board, like it wasn't part of the offering. So yoga classes became very quickly very popular. I was teaching yoga and Pilates for women. Obviously through those years, like this age of my students has gone along with me, and I've kind of followed their women's journey through kind of everything that they've been going through. And so that led me to study also pregnancy yoga to kind of keep up with how I could keep all those students when they were pregnant and serve them. And through that, I discovered actually how many women had to actually go through treatments to get pregnant, and how many single women were turning up in my yoga classes in the more recent years who had decided to become solo mums. And of course, also I have seen a few miscarriages and sad stories as well. And also through my own journey, because I had endometriosis and I wanted to find a holistic and natural way to treat that without going through surgery. So, I mean, that would be a whole nother YouTube video, but, nutrition and yoga and my own self-care became super important to me. And when you are affected by something like that and you open yourself up and talk about it, so many other people also tell you what they're going through. So I realized that this is a really big thing that's just not being served, actually. And that's when I decided to study hormone yoga therapy. And here we are. Yeah.
For sharing your story. Amazing. Now, Jane, can you tell us what does the current research says about how yoga can support fertility?
Sure. So inside my free trial, there is actually the links to some of these resources, and I'm sure Catherine will put them also underneath the YouTube video. But there are studies about how yoga, breathwork, and meditation help to relax the nervous system, help to reduce inflammation, which is very important for fertility and egg quality. They also help to reduce cortisol levels, which affects in natural cycles, ovulation, and it affects the success of IVF success rates. So super important. We can also, help to increase the blood flow to the ovaries and the uterus. So there is a study by the International Journal of Yoga that goes into that, and also a study by Harvard University that actually confirmed that women who were previously considered as infertile, which I'll give you a bit of background on that.
Sure.
They would call that women who have been trying to conceive for more than 2 years.
Okay.
And have not been able to conceive naturally. So for me, that doesn't mean you're infertile. It means that you've been trying naturally for 2 years, and perhaps there are some other things that you haven't tried yet, like nutrition, yoga, tracking your cycle, and other lifestyle changes. But they discovered that previously considered infertile women were 3 times more likely to conceive after doing this 10-week yoga, breathwork, and meditation course.
Yeah.
And that IVF success rates more than doubled. So that's a Harvard study.
Yeah.
And I'll drop the link on that as well for you as well.
So you recently got featured in the UK Women's Health magazine, just on this month issue, which is exactly, I think I saw that articles as well from the Harvard study. Maybe you can share with us a little bit more insight. Why is it essential to incorporate yoga into our daily routine, especially for women starting, trying to conceive, or there might be someone who thinking about starting a family? Why is it so important we start thinking about practicing yoga?
Okay, well, yes, Lizzie. And I feel that it is essential to incorporate yoga into their daily routine, or at least just a few times a week, to find that space to really connect with their body, to relax themselves and connect with their emotions and just process everything that they're going through, and also to understand and really feel their own menstrual cycle. So with fertility yoga, I've created Femflow yoga, which is cycle specific. So I work with different yoga poses throughout the menstrual cycle. So first of all, I help women to identify which phase of their menstrual cycle they're in, and what's actually going on inside their bodies at that time, how their hormones are affecting their emotions, their metabolism, and all of those things, and which poses of yoga would be beneficial for you at that time, and which poses you should avoid in each phase. So it really makes the yoga tailored specifically for women to harmonize with your ovarian activity and your uterine lining, the thickening and the shedding of the uterine lining, and to support you emotionally through your fertility journey. So you have this 4-phase approach, which is for, the menstrual cycle. We try to avoid, obviously, inversions and things like that, so that we're not having blood flow stagnate around the fallopian tubes. And then in the follicular phase, we're really stimulating blood flow to the ovaries to, get a lot of fresh circulation there for egg quality and build up of the uterine lining. And of course, we're considering the 2-week wait, all the emotions and possible implantation, early pregnancy, and wouldn't want to interfere with that. So it is really specialized for what your body is going through physically and what you are going through mentally and emotionally, and all the extra things that are being put on your plate during trying to conceive time.
I really love what you share, Jane, because I think quite often when we talk about yoga, people tend to think that it's just for relaxation, right? What most people didn't realize is yoga can be specific, tailored to different phases of menstrual cycle. It really depends on what is the goal, right? Is that when you're trying to conceive, obviously the plan is first thing first, we got to understand the cycle, the period cycle. And then just same as nutrition and lifestyle intervention, we got to tailor to the first half of the cycle, follicular phase, and then after that, the ovulation as well, support the embryo implantation. So I love that you share with us that even with yoga, it can be personalized to each client scenario as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's a concern that some people come with. Some people are, coming to yoga for the first, I find a lot of people join yoga for the first time when they're pregnant or when they're trying to conceive. And perhaps, they've been more into more active activities like going running or HIIT training and things like that. And then suddenly those things are taken away from them at this time.
So true.
And, they need a practice that they can lean into to really connect with their bodies and still get that kind of place of relief to turn to.
Absolutely.
And also, it's not only about just sitting down and relaxing. It's also, follicular phase, we're really about actively stimulating blood flow and, cyclical breathing and stuff. It's very focused. So it's not just airy-fairy and, it's a very active and focused yoga practice. And I find that those people who originally came in thinking, oh, this is going to be too slow for me, actually love it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when it comes to the time to relax, they are so ready for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh,
and obviously the luteal phase, you know, the 2-week wait and early pregnancy is a more gentle, had a different approach. But I think once people really start to connect with their system, they also recognize when they connect with their cycle that there are times in the month where they want to be more dynamic and other times in the month where they naturally start to go more within and slow down a little bit. And so that's the beautiful thing about cycle syncing.
Yeah, love it, Jane. I'm curious, Jane, what about for women who didn't know their cycle, or they might be women, you know, experiencing or suffering from PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, who doesn't really have a like regular menstrual cycle? Like, how exactly yoga can help in this case?
Okay, so actually this brings a good point because first of all, women with PCOS don't always have regular cycles. Not only them, but also women who are entering into perimenopause. And I've even had women on my course who are menopausal and going for embryo transfers. And so it really seems like almost everything is possible. And you can still be very well served with cycle syncing yoga. First of all, inside the program, step 1 is helping you to track your cycle. So if you have PCOS or if you're with the perimenopause, you can still use BBT charting. You can use different like gadgets and apps and things to recognize your cervical mucus, to see exactly where you are. So it's not like a prediction app. It's based on your physical body and what it's doing in real time. And we teach you how to use those tools. And then from there, even if you don't have a cycle, then it is good for you. And I offer like kind of monthly rituals with the mindset, you know, kind of like what it would be your menstrual phase. We then kind of turn it over and I call it like your moon phase. Yeah. Because I often find that, because I teach menopause yoga as well, women start to feel a little bit lost when they don't have their cycle, because it's something that they've had for years on end. And then suddenly they don't feel where they are, like emotionally. So having these like rituals of, you know, journaling, for example, like when you have your menstruation or, you know, when the moon is full and about to start to go down again. And it can be a really nice time to think about what you want to let go of this month, you know? And so that was going sort of more into the emotional aspects of a woman's cycle as well. Because obviously we have our peaks, you know, estrogen peak is when you're about to ovulate. That's when you're feeling your best, you're most attractive, you're most likely to be a great presenter on your YouTube channel because you're feeling more confident and, you know, your skin looks more shiny and all of those things. But also I have to say that the type of yoga that I teach, specifically the part for the follicular phase, is really good for people with PCOS and helps to balance and regulate the cycle. So many women who have PCOS, as soon as they start this practice and are consistent with it, hopefully should find that their actual cycle begins to regulate just through, you know, the yoga and the nutritional changes that they're making, and seed cycling. And, you know, obviously I'm not a nutritionist, so I offer like little resources about seed cycling. And I, you know, work with people like Catherine to help get my students the best advice that they can have for their own specific case, because everybody's needs are different. You know, it could be inflammation or PCOS or anything. That yoga really does help to stimulate the blood flow to the ovaries and to balance the cycle and the hormones.
Yeah. And the emotional side of things as well, Jane, isn't it? Quite often when we work, like I work with clients, like food is linked with so much of how we feel. Different time of the cycle as well. I think you just touched on beautifully. It's so important. We also consider helping, like supporting client in terms of emotional tying to their menstrual cycle.
Food is like, it's like it's an energy exchange. It's like, or it's like comfort food, or you punish yourself by binge eating, or, you know, it really goes. I see that as well with my clients. The moments where they're most likely to sort of fall off their routines is, you know,
Yeah.
when there is a disappointment, and then the food and the nutrition and the those things, suddenly they're more at risk of actually being thrown to the side, you know, hell for leather kind of
Absolutely.
thing. And so that's why I also think being part of a program and having a yoga practice and having other ways to relieve stress helps you to keep on being consistent with those changes that you're implementing.
Now, Jane, I'm
Which is
just thinking
important.
that quite commonly, client that I see also quite often having issue with endometriosis or even fibroid as well, right?
Mhm.
I was thinking if you have any insights to share whether or not yoga can be something that women can consider as well, particularly for this women health issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of knowledge about that, obviously,
Okay.
from my own journey too, and other women that I've supported. Both endometriosis and fibroids are related to estrogen.
Yep.
So we, first of all, you know, we have a whole series of things that we try to help you to kind of detox yourself and not overload on external estrogen sources.
Yep.
But it's also important to understand that these things, like the yoga practices that we make, if we go for super dynamic stuff all the time, we could actually be pushing estrogen levels as well. So when you're studying hormone yoga therapy, it's important to understand that some types of practices are actually not indicated for, let's say, a woman who has estrogen related cancer in the family, or who has fibroids or endometriosis. And also would be important to be cycle-specific with your yoga practice, because if you are suffering from endometriosis and things like that, it certainly wouldn't be recommended for you to be doing abdominal exercises and twists when you are having your menstruation, because this is like the tissue growing outside of the uterus. You don't want more of that tissue to be getting out and growing outside of the uterus. So also with the fibroids, you don't want to be stimulating their growth or affecting them in a way that causes heavy bleeding. So we would take more of like a pregnancy yoga approach. If somebody would have a big fibroids or large cysts on the ovaries or anything like that, we need to be really careful with that. So I think it's really important that's why I say yoga for women is really important. It should be around your menstrual cycle, whether you're trying to conceive or not, that we're aware of our inner fluctuations and our gynecological situation. So that we can accompany our body and harmonize with our cycle and, you know, the flow of our uterine lining, and, you know, not put pressure on cysts and fibroids and not aggravate things.
This is
Super
really an
important.
aha moment for me, Jane, because it sounds like even with yoga practice, like for me, right? I always believe in personalization. I think what you shared today, one of the key points I learned is that it's so important to seek help with the right person like yourself, who really have a lot of expertise as well experience dealing with like one-on-one kind of individualized plan. Because like you just say, you know, depending on the health conditions, if you're doing the wrong type of yoga, that's not ideal, right? So I think that like what you say, the personalizations of yoga practice is so important as well.
So just to add on to that about the endometriosis, like I think it's also really important to have, you know, deep twists and types of yoga that help to release stagnant blood when you're not on your menstrual flow. So these types of yoga really help to, you know, release adhesions, break them down, and release them into the lymphatic system so that they're drained out of the body as well. And there is some research. I don't have the research on that right now written down, but these, you know, yoga can really help to relieve the symptoms of endometriosis and fibroids as well. The fibroids, I have some other comments on that, so I won't go super deep into it, because then, of course, with all of these things, with all of these holistic things, you will often find that women are coming and, you know, I always recommend them to try a combination of things. Like, don't just do yoga, make changes to your nutrition as well. Get yourself some water filter, go to bed earlier, treat yourself
Yeah.
with more kindness, more
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah.
And it's a big combination. So I wouldn't say necessarily there's like research about the thing with fibroids for yoga specifically, but I
Yeah.
can say that I have had specifically one lady in Ukraine who had
Yeah.
two big fibroids. And after some months of the protocol that I offered her, when she went back to her country to get her operation, they said she didn't even really actually need it. And in the end, she had one small fibroid removed just because it was there and she didn't want it to develop again. But
Yeah.
the other one was not even worth taking away. So
Yeah.
there are really natural ways to work on these things.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
operations, especially when you look at endometriosis, do cause more scar tissue. So I'm not saying don't go and get an operation at all, not at all.
Yep.
But I do say try to take this kind of like three-prong approach of,
Yeah.
doing holistic
Yeah.
yoga, physical activities, and mindfulness and meditation, along with
Yeah.
nutritional things, anti-inflammatories, and also taking care of your gynecological situation with the professionals and taking the advice that you need.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
important.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that even with endometriosis, we don't look at just a short-term solution. It's often the long-term kind of solution. Don't forget as well, it's the pelvic pain that a lot of women are going through as well. So I think that one key point from our today episode is really thinking about, yes, we still want you guys to have proper, medical consultation, medical treatment, to always seek your doctor's opinion, but definitely holistically, there are many other things that can help to manage the condition in the long term as well as managing the symptoms. So thank you, Jane, for sharing such an extensive knowledge about endometriosis and fibroid. Now, I guess that, lastly, I'm curious as well, Jane, have you came across much study about what's the current evidence says in terms of supporting, women's currently undergoing IVF? Do you have anything to share with us?
There's not a lot about the IVF with specifically only yoga. However, like I said at the beginning of the interview, there is a Harvard study that suggests that IVF success rates more than doubled. So that's an important statistic. But I can also tell you there was a study published in the Fertility and Sterility article. That's actually quite an old one from 2017. But it talks about how the stress and anxiety was significantly reduced in women undergoing IVF. And most importantly, it was measured that cortisol levels were significantly reduced. And high cortisol caused by stress has a very negative impact on natural fertility and IVF success results. So that was, more of a statistics-based study. You also have the International Journal of Yoga that has many studies on this type of thing, also reporting on lower levels of cortisol and more balanced hormones in women who took place in regular yoga during fertility treatments. And this reduction in cortisol levels supports the ovarian function and embryo implantation into the uterine lining. They also have another article here from the Journal of Psychosomatic Obstetrics Gynecology that showed that women who practiced yoga during IVF felt more in control of their emotions and were better able to handle the uncertainty and anxiety that accompanies fertility treatment, which I think is really, really important, because having been working this for so long, you really do see it's not about you go in, you do 2 weeks of IVF, and then, you come out the other side with a pregnancy. Many women go through multiple rounds of IVF, and they need to make decisions about testing. Perhaps they don't get as many, eggs collected than what they were expecting. Perhaps those eggs don't make it to the day 3 or the day 5. Perhaps the embryos are not of the quality grading that they were hoping for, so they decide to do another round. Perhaps everything looked good, but implantation didn't happen. So it really is a roller coaster. And I think that, of course, yoga and nutrition and all of those things help in the physical way, but it also provides like this kind of little safe community, safe space for women to share what they're going through emotionally and kind of keep coming, you know, your yoga mat is like the place that you keep coming back to every day to get back to your center. Come back, it's like coming back home, like you've been out and you've had your highs and your disappointments, but you just keep coming home to your yoga mat, keep working it out of your body and your energy field, and it's a big support.
I think quite often women felt lost in terms of they don't know who they are because it's so disconnected from what they believe their body can do. I love that you say that the feeling of coming home to themselves again, like make yoga as part of the strategies to kind of just take a moment, connecting with their mind and their body and soul, and just find themselves again. That is
totally,
something that,
Catherine, because
yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, you go. I was going to say quite often, pretty much every client that I met, every women's in this journey, they often say, I don't feel like myself again. Like,
women feel like their fertility has been like taken out of their hands. And sorry, the beach is opening outside.
We can't hear, don't worry.
Okay, the lifeguards are out. So women feel that, you know, they're being pricked and prodded all over the place, and they feel like the body is not their own, and they feel like there's nothing that they can do. And it's so wrong. It's your body. And there's so many things you can do to support your fertility. And it all starts with like how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, how you treat your body, recognizing that you are not your body and your body is not letting, you know, I always have this conversation. It's not that your body is letting you down, perhaps. And it's also not that you are letting down your body. Like there's so much guilt and shame around struggling with fertility. I'm like, it's my fault. I should have done this earlier. I should have not been, you know, should have been taking more care with my diet. And so much blame and shame. And we need to find a way to wipe that out and say, hey, you know, perhaps you have, you know, you have some heavy metals in your water, or perhaps, you know, there's a lot of things that you didn't know that you can tweak now and that you can improve now. And your body is not specifically letting you down. It's showing you with your symptoms. It's saying, hey, I could do with some extra support. I could do with some extra rest. I could do with some like nourishment that's going to help relieve me of this inflammation. It's all about like just coming back into the body and being together, like being whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's really important to be able to come home from a clinic visit and just tune back into your heart center and your womb space and just be like, hey, I'm here now.
I love that, Jane. I guess that, do you have any case study to share with us, Jane? Like, I'm sure you have so many now. You're kind of thinking which one you should share with us. Do you have someone that in mind that you can share with us? One of your clients?
I think the most special story, there's two that come to mind, but the most special one, I think, was one of my first stories, actually. It was right after I had been to complete my training for hormone yoga therapy. And it was a student who had been coming to my studio in Barcelona for some years. And, you know, I remember in the classes when she was getting ready for her wedding and we were doing weights and like elastic bands because she wanted her arms to look great in her dress. And, you know, I already knew what she'd been through, obviously, because I'm her teacher, and she had been through breast cancer some years before that when she was living in the States. But she didn't find it, but she struggled to conceive naturally. And she actually got involved in a program here where she was invited to do IVF, and the hospital were going to try to genetically, you know, to take out the breast cancer gene so that if she would go on to have a baby girl, she wouldn't pass that gene down. So she went for this IVF, but unfortunately that was not successful. And she was just devastated because, you know, she was young and she just married and she wanted to have her family. And I had just come back from this course and I told her, listen, you know, why don't you give this a try? And she said, no, but there's no hope for me, Jane. You know, like you know, I'll come along to support you because it's a new class that you're opening and I love your classes, but please don't be disappointed if, you know, don't hang any hopes on me, or, you know, I'll just come along for the ride, you know? But she did come along for the ride and she took the classes and we all had a lot of fun with it. And at that time I was teaching kind of like the cycle-specific yoga and
Yeah.
also like the yoga for perimenopause and all of that stuff to, you know, increase ovarian activation, balance the cycle and everything. And it was a group of students that we all knew together, and it was in person in my studio. And that started at the end of September. And then by December, she told me, listen, Jane, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to come back to this class next year, like next trimester. And I just felt so sad. And I was like, oh. And she said, because I'm pregnant. So she was pregnant naturally with her son, and she moved to the pregnancy yoga class. And so that was a really happy ending. And it was really meaningful to me because I had seen her whole journey, and she really didn't think she had hope. And
it's so
so
special.
that was a very, very special story. Yeah.
And it's your first client, come
She's
true.
my first success story.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
and,
so special.
Live in my studio. So yeah, very special, very special. And she's a good friend now. And then I went,
beautiful.
I've been now for 3 years in a row to the fertility show in London.
Yep.
And last year she came with me to the show to help me out on the stand. And because she feels very passionate about also helping other women, and she knew that being there and being able to talk to people on the stand would help other women who are on the path. So that was also really special to have her come along with me. Yeah.
Oh, amazing, Jane. Now I'm sure that a lot of people will be like, oh, where can I find more about Jane, about her practice? Jane, would you like to share with us? How can people connect with you and know more about your practice, Jane?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. Actually, I can tell you that you can find some resources on my website. There is a free trial there. And inside the free trial, I talk about like when to start practicing fertility yoga, because also I noticed that some people, sort of find me when they're already doing IVF. But I think it's really beneficial for women to also find their little community way before that. So we were just talking about the fertility show. Actually, the other story that I just thought of was a lady called Sarah. You can see her testimonials there. And she found me at the fertility show. And at that point, she was still on the fence, deciding if she wanted to become a single mom and what that would look like and what she would have to go through to get there. She started taking one-to-one classes with me after the fertility show, and I was with her all the way from making decisions to choosing a donor, shipping the eggs from Denmark to the UK, going through even when she went for the IUI, she went through the IUI listening to one of my meditations. Yeah. And so super, super connected, and she was successful with her first IUI. Like I said, she was a single mom, so she didn't necessarily have fertility issues, but it was still a pretty big journey for her. So I wanted to share that too, because a lot of women do come for egg freezing. Yep. Many people find themselves, at a point in life where perhaps they're single or have separated and they're concerned about their fertility going forward, and they don't want that to affect their relationships, or they're considering being a single mom. And so I think as soon as you start thinking about having a family, you don't need to be struggling with fertility to want to have a more conscious conception. Like starting with your nutrition and your supplements and your yoga and connecting with your body and your cycle is like, I would say, I call it being like pre-pregnant. It's like the phase before pregnancy. And I think it's a very special time to be conscious with your soul and with your body. So the sooner the better. And research does say that the 3 months before conception is the time where you can really impact the quality of your eggs, because that's when your eggs are kind of coming out of hibernation and chromosomes are being, aligned and magic is happening. So that's the time where you really want to protect them with all the antioxidants, which I'm sure Catherine will tell you all about. And also make sure you've got a beautiful, fresh, healthy blood flow going into your ovaries and to your uterine lining at that point. So as soon as possible, really. And also through the IVF, I didn't mention this before, sorry, that, we talked about the 4-phase fertility yoga. There's also another phase for IVF yoga because, your ovaries actually expand to quite a lot bigger than their normal size when you're going through IVF treatments. And there is a risk of twisting an ovary.
Yeah.
And so we really want to make sure that you're having a safe practice during the IVF treatments. And I support women even with meditations and stuff for like self-injection, and really kind of making more sort of sacred and special little routines for yourself out of things that ordinarily could be like triggering and stressful. So it really is a lot of mindset around that. So you can find inside the free trial, you can find yoga classes or yoga videos, meditation audios, and also a PDF about the different poses for each phase of your natural cycle if you're trying to conceive. That's not specifically for women with endometriosis, PCOS, or fibroids or IVF. That's a resource for trying to conceive naturally on a natural cycle. No issues. But inside the membership program, you'll see that I'm very, very much active with all of my members, and everyone has a one-to-one call with me. Even if they're not having one-to-one sessions, I'm always there for them. We have a one-to-one call, so I know exactly what situation they're in and give them like tailored guidance to which videos and when and how, if they need to adjust anything. And, we can book a one-to-one to sort of go through and like in more detail later on if you need extra help. So yes, you can find me. My website is femflow.com, so www.femflow.com, and you just click on courses fertility. So Catherine will drop the link. And I'm also on Instagram as Femflow Fertility Yoga. So I hope to serve you all there.
Love it, Jane. Thank you so much. And of course, we will drop those links in the description box. Now, once again, thank you, Jane, for joining this wonderful
excellent questions.
Episode.
Great conversation.
All right. Bye, everybody.